Namaste, everyone. Good to see you. Sorry for having to start a little bit late. So let's start by just closing your eyes. We'll just move into breath awareness together. Just breathe in and out of the heart. Let us just soften the heart, soften the whole body, and let's just feel what is there. And bring both your hands to your heart and just connect with the sacred. And just ask that presence to fill your whole heart, your whole body, and the whole room you're in. Now ask that presence to fully be with us during this class, very powerfully, that it fully should lead the class. So just lower your hands and open your eyes. Namaste to all of you. I hope you all are doing well. Sorry for having to delay the class. Our little one is having a total meltdown. So we're just dealing with it. We might have to go upstairs. I don't know. We'll see. I once was telling somebody, I look forward to the terrible twos, and they laughed. They said, no, it's the terrible threes, It's so true, So I think next Sunday is the last class. Is that correct? Is it next Sunday? It's the last session? No one knows. Okay. I believe so. So I could be wrong on that. I think it ends before Thanksgiving, but so this whole journey up until this point has been a journey where we've kind of shown sort of our effort on the whole thing. We've saw very clearly where it really is an alignment with yourself, and it's an honesty with yourself, and it's a non-resistance with yourself, which I think is a great word. Acceptance is a great word for that. People have always contemplated the idea of self-acceptance personally. Like, what does that mean, self-acceptance? Because that's somehow implying that there's this very large sense of you that you have to all fully accept. You have to discover everything and accept, But as I kind of grew at a certain point, it became really clear to me, self-acceptance is actually just learning to see with honesty and embrace and experience whatever is there in the moment you're in. Because there's actually there's no self in a sense. There's nothing outside of the moment you're in. So the totality of you is waiting for you in the very moment you're in. One moment, a personality could be there that wants to go and do something. Another moment, another personality wants to do something else. But in each moment is only the one moment. And when we see that and we pay attention, we're honest, we're clear, that's there. And we don't resist it. That's the self-acceptance, And the whole journey, I think, of getting in the flow with life and life's abundance and grace and things like that is learning this art of self-acceptance. It's learning to soften with honesty, be an experience in the heart. And all of life naturally flows as a result of that. And when life isn't flowing, it's actually really beautiful, because you can take a look and see, my God, how far off am I from being present, relaxed in the heart, and experiencing what is there? I notice it all the time. I watch literally the world go chaotic on me. And it's no mystery to me. I just simply point right inwards and realize, yep, that's where I'm at. This is what is showing up everywhere else. I don't see it as a bad thing. I just see it as time to do the work. Time to step back into being present and in the breath and in the heart. Time to feel whatever's there that I'm resisting, that's leading me astray from the simple act of showing up each moment. We'll always see the disharmony of life really begins or is apparent, is there. It can always be traced down to some kind of thing inside of you that you're wrestling with or struggling with. And the story of the mind feels so justified. It just feels right. That's the funniest thing about pain is the story coaxes you into thinking it's somehow an absolute reality. And it's a certain, like, I have to do this. It's the only logical answer. The pain is gone. It makes no sense to act from that space. And you watch life evolve the next moment. I think that's the great gift and freedom of life, is in an unconscious state, you're reactive, trying to make every decision coming from pain or hurt, an unconscious state. But when you're conscious and in the heart, life presents itself, life unfolds, life flows. And it's really, really wonderful when you start catching the hang of both of them, when you start realizing, got it, I'm totally in a reactive place and I'm trying to take the reins of everything, and it's going to only be a destructive thing. It just is. That's just how, that's how that is. Whatever energy you act from is the energy you get back. So this whole journey up to this point has been a journey of learning to sit in the heart, learning to be honest with yourself, the things you want, and learning to realize the intention or passion must be there and the action has to follow, you know? And this is where I think a lot of Western people naturally get kind of stuck, in my opinion. This has been my experience, is that there's this part of the self or the mind that wants to deem itself God. It wants to deem itself as the controller of all. You can't blame it. It makes a lot of sense. That's the whole joke as you start traveling into a state of restoring yourself to a state of oneness, is that the mind sees that fundamentally you and God are one. The mind sees that all of creation is the same fabric material, and you're part of that. The mind starts seeing that it's not just a broken, wounded little being separate from everything. It starts seeing its grandeur. And the mind says, my intention manifests reality. I have control over everything. And the joke of the matter is yes, there is a power to the mind. But what the mind fails to see is the very brain that the mind spawns from, the very body that encases the brain, and all other fabric of creation is being upheld by some kind of supreme intelligence. I mean, whatever is creating the experience of time and space and the intelligence to evolve species and lives. On a small little planet, there's millions of species, supposedly. If you become a mystic to some level, you see there's trillions of other beings on all sorts of different realms. It's infinite, actually. And the framework of all of it is some kind of intelligence. It's something so beautiful. And that's when this person starts seeing this, when they really start seeing it, the mind humbles. It realizes there is a higher intelligence. There is something more. I love to call it the sacred, the divine, whatever you want to call it. At one point, I really felt the divine had an image for me, had a form, you know, that's how my path took me. I was from a strong atheist. I went into a certain direction. I really held on to a form for the divine. It was perfect, beautiful, loved it. It was so awesome. And at a certain point, the form disappeared and a different quality of the universe revealed itself. I saw the oneness of life in such a deep way. And that changed me in a huge, huge way. And then I started looking at all the other sages and all the religions and various things. I don't want to say all, but a large degree of the very profound works. And I saw that that's actually what they were speaking on, this oneness of life, the divine being actually formless to some extent. I don't want to just peg it as one thing because it's your journey. It's not me to say, oh, it has to be like this. The divine will show up in any way you want. But an aspect that they all touch on is some kind of unmanifested aspect and a complete oneness with it. And it was very, very beautiful to realize that it's just our divisive levels of consciousness that make us so confused from each other, from ourselves, from life, and especially from the divine. And I think the problem the mind faces is the mind is so naturally, it's so used to really grasping something. Like if I have this little remote here, what's so wonderful with the mind is all the senses bring it in and say, this is how many buttons. This is the color of the buttons. This is the size and shape of this. This is the functionality of it. We'll give it a name. This is the name of it now. And here's how I make use of it. But when it comes to something so grand as what you call the divine or the sacred or the supreme, the higher intelligence, whatever name you want to give it, there's no framework that the mind can possibly grasp onto. It's something way beyond the framework of the mind. The mind is as intelligent as this little remote is compared to the grand scheme of things. This thing can only push buttons. Like, don't ask it for a good conversation. It's not going to talk back. So our brain is just in a species body, evolved up to this point, and is utilized for functioning. It has a little bit of philosophy. That's about it. It's nothing so beautiful, you know. It's got its limits for sure. But the thing that's upholding, that's appearing as all things, that the very energy of it is spawning life in every possible direction. And that, at least in my experiences, is this is one of trillions of universes. And where it resides, this unmanifest, it's the very fabric between all of them. It doesn't, time and space is nothing to it. It's just a small sliver of vibration that creates the ability for it to experience itself. That's my experience of the whole thing, you know? But what's so beautiful is when you realize, I get it. Like, I'm not going to get this one. Like, as the ancients would say, it's not unknown, it's unknowable. There's a difference. Unknown is tomorrow, I'll figure it out. Unknowable is a whole different thing. When we realize that we can't necessarily grasp it, it's very wonderful to realize, got it. God isn't to be understood, it's to be experienced. What life is really asking for is for you to experience, for you to marvel, to live. And the gift of the divine is you are never, ever separate from it. Whatever creation you decide to create, and all of your struggle, it's right there with you as you having the experience. As you prosper and flower, it's right there with you having those revelations. It has no judgment. It's so beautiful, so profound. So one of the most beautiful things that I realized is I've watched my intentions and the things I want. I watched them all start manifesting, come into play. And but what intrigues me is the vast intelligence of creation to make all that happen. It's not just unconsciously like, I just saw it in me and it just happened. And we leave out it just happened part. I think that's where everyone gets it wrong, at least in my experience for myself. It didn't just happen. A lot of things literally started happening in all of creation to spawn that to come towards you. There was some kind of intelligence that was so awesome, so extreme. And that relationship each of us have to it is completely unique. That's the coolest thing about it. Call it whatever you want. Don't call it a name at all. It just doesn't matter. It doesn't care. It is busy having that reality with you. So when you're the strong stanced atheist that you're the only thing with intelligence and there's no higher governing power on any possible level, it silently is right there as you having that experience. How funny that is. And when you go into a full state, so the big states of samadhis, where you literally become all of creation and you go beyond it, it is having that experience with you as you. It has no judgment because it is the one thing that remains always. It is what is silently looking out of your eyes. It is the eternal witness. It is the vast silent perceiver. That's the greatest gift about the divine, is after all of our seeking, all of our praying, all of our searching, we silence, the mind silences for a moment, and we come into this alignment of sheer silent beingness and perceiving. And that's when we're in communion with the greatest thing of all creation and beyond, the one thing that always remains, which is the core of what you are. And why I'm saying all these things, as I often tell people, is that for me, it's not that God is a reality, is that as you flower, you realize it's God, the divine, the one, is the reality. So life isn't necessarily, from one perspective, just about an intention and a struggle to just achieve it. That's one perspective, very common one in the West. You know, I'm going after this and like whatever, you know, classic 80s, right? I'm going after it. So as we flower more and more, we actually see everything is the sacred, that life is sacred. Everything is the supreme intelligence. It's not that I have to seek grace. I'm swimming in it. Everything is it. So the intentions we have, the clarity we have, it isn't just so rigid anymore. It becomes heartfelt. It becomes a place where not only are we intending for it, but we're also asking for it. We're also communicating to that in whatever way you want. May it be in the form of Christ. May it be Buddha. May it be any form or formless, name or nameless. But your heart starts talking to the incomprehensible, the unknowable. But it starts feeling and connecting to it as a friend. And there's such tremendous power when your heart starts asking life as a best friend to help, to pick up where you can't go any further, to make it work out. And I would have to say, although I wanted to truck us through the course up to this point, that this is my secret ingredient. I am filled with flaws. I am just a raw human being learning to heal and grow, ignorant to so many things, uneducated to the nth degree. But I know what I want. I have passion. And above all, I have a friendship. I have something I'm connecting to saying, help me. I have literally seen dead people come back to life. I have watched honey dripping from photos. I've seen the divine manifest. I could tell you so many different massive miracles that you say it's not possible, but I actually experienced them. And it was always because my heart asked my best friend, I need your help now. I need you to take care of this. And I started incorporating in my day-to-day life that friendship. And I'm telling you, really, it doesn't matter the name, it doesn't matter the form, it doesn't matter anything other than you just simply saying, if there's something else more, I would like to be aligned with you. I'd like a friendship. Please help. And you don't have to prove yourself. I always thought gratitude was about proving yourself to God. So God's like, yeah, you express some gratitude. I'll give you a Christmas gift this year. Gratitude is not like that at all. It's so funny how we're trying to prove ourselves to something, you know? So I think one of the most holistic things that happen on the spiritual journey that I think us Westerners really struggle from. See, I lucked out. I got thrown into, I was a fish out of water amongst a bunch of Indian monks. So bhakti and service and devotion to the divine was in their blood. It was literally the very fabric of their soul. So I got to get immersed in that and conditioned in that, and really saw how that is a powerful path. The path of you relating to life, to whatever you want to call it, with love, with friendship, and you having a real honest integral conversation whenever you want, you watch miracles take place. They happen all the time. So I'm speaking all this because why am I speaking about this in a Sankalpa course, a manifestation? Because I feel I'd be doing a tremendous disservice if I just taught these little things up to this point and said, great, really great connect with you all, good luck. I feel like it's like that. Yes, we've shown what your effort is, but my goodness, the greatest power of them all is when your heart reaches out to the unknowable and says, help me. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm telling you right now, I need help, or this is what I want. Please make this happen. The flaw of humanity, and I say it's the flaw of the mind, is because it's so active trying to survive or manage the pain inside, running from its own fear. The mind itself creates the fear and runs from it through thought, that it isn't slowed down enough to have that relationship and to even know to make use of it throughout the day. It doesn't realize this X factor, this secret ingredient, this calling out of grace can be utilized any moment. It never runs out. The more you relate, the more powerful it becomes, because you start seeing the capacity of it. You give way. And that's when we realize I have been nothing but out of fear controlling my life and struggling. I myself felt all the burdens only on me. I feel that I'm the only one who can solve this. And out of all that pressure, you feel like you want to snap or you get really depressed. But how awesome is it when you start realizing, no, my friend can do this. Grace can handle this. I'm going to ask for help. So if I had to go build a house outside, I probably would have to wake up every day and hit nails in the wood. I'd probably have to lay it all out like I talked about. But you better believe every moment I'd be sitting there having the intention. I'd be asking for help. Anything I struggle with, immediately I ask my friend. And I watch suddenly neighbors come by and say, I'll help you build that. Or all of a sudden people get in touch with you randomly and say, hey, I know my good friend would come over from Matthew from California, knows how to build a house. He'd fly right over. Something would happen more. That's why I always saw the path of Buddhism and the path of Hinduism, just in that analogy of building a house, that both monks would achieve the house, but the one who had the bond with the divine would have all this external help showing up all the time. And the other one who just has no concept of that would just be like, you know, very gratefully building it. It would be a great house, but the magic wasn't there, you know? The difference between Christ and Buddha per se. Christ was known for booming miracles, you know, Buddha for wisdom. So a couple more principles on this, because if this is new for you, you might be like, whoa, this course went in this direction. And yes, I kind of, in all my courses, I try to go in this direction. The principle that's very ancient, I think it's called Bhakta Paradina or Pradna. I think it's Pradna, Paradina. I don't know. Terrible at Sanskrit. So the principle is simple. Whatever way you want to relate to the unknowable, the incomprehensible, the sacred, whatever way you decide to relate to it at any given moment, it only knows how to relate back in that way. It literally relates in the way you relate to it. What you really discover as we flower further and further, and as that mind slows down and you discover the self that is there beyond the mind, you discover the eternal self. It's just there. It's waiting for you. It's that which looks out of the eyes. It's waiting right there for you. But what you realize is it is the one that's alive. It is the one that remains. It is untouchable by life. But the sliver, the sleeve called the mind, and its quick thinking and personalities makes you believe you're separate. It makes you believe that you are only the one that's alive and that God is maybe somehow false. But as it peels back, you start seeing you're not that, and you finally discover, I am that I am the big that. I am that which watched the mind the whole time. This stage, which I think most people are seeing glimpses of, is one of the grandest stages. That's why in spirituality, the middle part of the path has some really beautiful perks. One such perk is Hanuman rightfully said, I think it was Lord Ram was asking Hanuman, do you know who you are? Something like that. Or do you know who I am? I forget how it goes. And Hanuman said, when I know myself, I am you. I think that's what he said, do you know who I am? He said, when I know myself, I am you. I am God. When I forget myself, I serve you. Such a beautiful statement. And that's actually a great framework of understanding the sense of separate self. That as you grow, you'll start getting glimpses that there is something more. You start getting glimpses that the heart is tremendously sacred. You start getting glimpses that when you get silent, you feel at one with everything. You start seeing the larger self. Then when the mind comes back in, it's kind of broken a little bit. It's not the end all be all sitting on the throne, right, to achieve its massive enlightenment, take over the whole universe. It starts becoming humble because it realizes, I get it. I can be of service to this. I can serve the heart. I can recognize the hand of the divine in all things. I can see the miraculousness of life. I can co-create. And of course, you go silent again and you feel at one, all those things dissolve. So as we flower further and further, the mind takes on auspicious personalities to work with the flow of life, to recognize it and learn to recognize when you've fallen off in the flow of life. So my experience of life these days is one of all the time allowing myself to be vulnerable, to heal whatever comes up, all the time asking and relating to that supreme intelligence. Whatever I want, I ask, I relate, and it comes. And as my breath slows down, as I soften out of the body, soften into the heart, I only find myself at complete oneness with it all. And all of a sudden, that very concept of worshiping anything outside myself or relating to anything more, it completely makes no sense. And all of a sudden, my breath picks back up, my mind kicks back in, and there's a sense of Doug, and Doug is relating to the divine. And this is a natural state anybody finds themselves in a natural, slow, conscious breath. When you live the life of the heart, this is there. So today is a day where I felt it'd be beautiful to just speak about the divine, speak on the divine, and help bring some more concepts to it, because there's several principles that could be very, very helpful with the divine. And I'll share a couple examples later on before I process. But I tell you, intention and effort is phenomenal. You must have a good quality of that. But when you really get the hang of the divine, absolute spontaneous miracles become a way of life. And it always is awesome. It's completely awesome. The other day, just yesterday on a small note, I was, or this weekend, I was thinking, I'm not really in alignment with one of my clients. I really want to move on, not work with them so much. There's a lot of struggle. We're just not lining up. I was concerned because there's a good portion of a good solid income, it wouldn't drain us, but it was something that I have to decide, am I going to let that go? And the decision was, yeah, I feel like that, at least at this moment. And the moment I felt like that, I get a phone call, not even an hour later, from another larger client that I have, all web design stuff. And the person immediately says, hey, we need you on board for the next 6 months. We have all these much larger projects and etc. And all of a sudden now I'm going to be making more money and I need to focus on that one. Letting go of this client is not a big deal anymore. I wasn't concerned about it anymore. All because in my heart, I'm connecting to that which is sacred, talking to it, saying, solve this. I don't know what to do. I'm going to leave this to you. You solve it. And all of a sudden, the gears of creation, of higher intelligence unfold. So So the divine's a very, very powerful thing. And so today we'll talk about it further and go into a process around it, and etc. So anyway, I'll turn it over though. I'd love to just hear how you're doing, and if you have any questions, and just open it up for our community. So blind. I think it's, I see you. Let me just fix that thing real quick. 1 second here. Hi, Leon. Did I get your name right?
Yes, you did.
Great. Good to see you, by the way.
Good to see you too. So it's really weird how this works, because every time I log on to this class, you start talking about exactly what I was going to ask about.
Right on.
Basically today I was like, before the class, I was going through a lot with my job and figuring things out of which direction I want to go. And that's kind of where I'm at right now. But I was just very confused, and it's almost like I'm like battling with like patience, I guess, right now with myself. And every time I kind of like sit and think to myself, I'm like, I don't know. I just don't know which direction to go with. And this morning I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna let it all go and leave it up to my divine, because I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
So I'm happy that you said that, because I was just like, is this what I'm supposed to do? Like, not that there's something you're supposed to do, but I guess. But yeah, so what I wanted to ask is that like okay to be confused in my own right? Like
Yeah.
I'm just very I just don't, I guess the more I sit into my heart, the more my brain is or my mind is fighting it.
Yeah.
So I don't know how to push past that in a way.
I'll talk about this for sure.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, very, very valid thing you're saying. I think it's so natural. First of all, what I've found in general is, and try to check it out. Like, let us say you wake up on a Saturday morning, you don't really have anything so planned per se, right? And you're not stressed for whatever reason, you just wake up and whatever. If you just watch, life actually kind of has its own rhythm for the day. Kind of takes you here, takes you there. Phone call comes in, suddenly you're in the car, you shoot out to the park, suddenly you decide to go have sushi, you're having sushi, and you're back home. Life kind of just unfolded. And a lot actually got done per se, not saying there's not days you just literally lay on the couch and don't do anything. But then if you look at it, if things are flowing smoothly in your life, that's kind of how your day is. I mean, like, you show up and you kind of know what you need to work on, and somebody reminds you, it all unfolds. Then you get struck with hurt or pain or fear. All of a sudden your mind goes into survival mode. That concept of life unfolding no longer exists at all. Like, in that reality, you know what I mean? It's just like decision time. I got to make a decision, and I got to do something. I got to decide this. You know what? We're going to decide today. And so something inside of you is fighting a fight to somehow put a stake in the reality and say, this has to be the outcome. And so now here's the joke. It's a horrible joke. With that energy, with that logical decision, because it's the safest, and this is just what you want to go do, you then share somebody that perspective with that energy. So anybody else who's a blank slate hears that and feels that, they'll say, good for you, you're clear about it, and I support you. They would have said that no matter what you said. If you said, I'm shaving my head and going off to Tibet to become a monk, you'd be like, good for you, I support you. Like, that's pretty much how it is. So now you're checking in with other people, but if you're convinced in it, they're convinced in it. Oh, hold on, somebody's let me mute somebody here. You're convinced that they're convinced in it. So then it really comes the idea where it's like, well, now I have to do it because I've already told people, and this is what happens. But what happened to that Saturday? What happened to life just simply unfolding? Like one example, because I said big example, we knew we had to move sometime, month to month basis. We were living up in New Hope. We knew it was too cold to have another winter there. And we were in Colombia just visiting. And out of nowhere, we thought we were going to be in that house for at least 10 more months. We get a phone call, and the phone call was, the person passed away who was the original owner of the house, and they have to put it on the market. Can you get out in 3 weeks? Which was extreme. I didn't even know you're supposed to like give a person at least 2 months. So we just thought, yeah, sure. We don't have much packed. And very effortlessly, we packed our stuff and thought where to go, maybe Asheville. And suddenly our great friends picked us up at the airport. We stayed with them. We found an apartment. It all just unfolded. It was a big mystery tour, and it just unfolded. We landed here, and within a year, we have a house. It wasn't like stress and effort and what do I do? So when you realize you're being gripping and positional and you feel you have to have a decision, you may just want to see what emotion is this coming from. And for most part, for me at least, it's a grip of anger and fear. It's just something that's kind of like a knot inside or a hook. So as soon as I process that, as much as I can, sometimes it takes days for me. 3 or 4 days I'm processing. I don't care because I just know it burns through. So I just know like, okay, here we go. But all of a sudden you realize, wait a second, I don't need to make any decision. This thing's going to unfold. So that's where surrender is really beautiful. Like you rightfully said, is if you don't really know what your right decision is and you're kind of freaking out about it and nothing's really resonating, you're just probably not resonating with, because there's a pain inside of some sort, like since you're not resonating, life isn't. That's where that idea of surrender comes in, saying, life, you take care of it. I'm letting my divine take care of it. It will unfold. But in the meantime, that's my suggestion to you. But in the meantime, while life shows you what's next, you must face and heal the upheaval that's taking place. Because when the upheaval dissolves, the life can get right back on track of its flow. Like you'll be right where you want to be, greater than you expected, if you can just work through that which is trying to somehow grasp or make its move or decision. It's being reactive to life, Does that make sense? Yeah, hopefully that's helpful.
Yeah, absolutely, definitely. Because I definitely have that part of me that I hold on to the fear, and I'm like, it stops me my whole life, But
Me too.
That really helps. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, the hands down, if there's one advice I would give anyone on the spiritual journey, the one advice I would tell myself from day one when I started my spiritual journey, it would be, look, I know it's going to sound impossible for me to tell you this. This is me talking to myself. I would say invest in Bitcoin. First one, just buy as much Bitcoin as you can, son. Besides that, I would say you have to learn to experience fear. Like you have to learn that when fear is there, you sit down, you breathe, you soften every part of your body, and you allow yourself to stay present, consciously experiencing the actual sensation of fear. You must master this. This is what I would tell myself. I'd say, you just do this one thing, everything else falls in place, because the core of all these hurts and pains, the core of your very illusionary divisive reality is all this nasty layers or pinches of fear. And your whole life and reincarnation is nothing but sheerly running from it. That's actually the whole game of time and space, actually, on one level. So if we just know, if I allow myself to breathe and feel the sensation of fear, it undergoes its own transformation. It's intense, it gets more intense, sometimes it gets unbearable. Then it suddenly is not fear as much as it is hurt. Then it's smoldering pain, then it lessens down, maybe another layer comes up, but you're literally processing the core. And that's the greatest gift you can give yourself. And there's nothing easy about it. And the only reason why a person gets to that stage is because nothing else works. They try everything and drink as much ayahuasca in the world. You can go stand on your head as much as you want. but eventually somebody's going to have to finally sit down, breathe, and stay put, and hold space and feel the fear. And when you do that, I'm telling you, you graduate onto an entirely different plane of spiritual growth, a plane where you say, I don't have to run from anything anymore. I'm not running from anything. And that's an amazing step of maturity, you know? So, hello, Jody. How you doing, Jody? You have to unmute.
Hi there, Doug. I guess there's a little bit of confusion for me and you may have already answered this as well, is that when you said that you may have to give up a client, you may have to walk away because there was disharmony there. I guess for me, when it's time to walk away or something's not going to work, there is that doubt between, is this a charge? Is this the right decision? I've had some experiences where I almost beat myself up over it. I keep looking, but nothing's really coming up. So how do you actually define, or how do you,
I guess I totally know what you're talking about. I'm not confused what you're asking. And I'm no saint. So what my process is always like this, and I'm not perfect at it, so bear with me on this. My process is, I will always first say, I'm absolutely done with this person. I can't do this anymore. I'm sick of it. That will always be there. And I'll even talk prema into it, you know? And then I'll stew on it for a day, and then I'll start actually processing. I'll process for 2 days, 3 days, 4 days. This is like when we come to real heads with something, you know, like as a long-term client, and you're like, we're used to working, you work so close together, you basically are under each other's nails, basically. And so I then get to a place where I realize, like, for instance, one client that I have that I may decide to move on with, that's a concern for me, is I realize this is just an ongoing, never-ending pattern, and it's this person's nature to be this way. And it adds a lot of unnecessary stress and over sense of responsibility when I'm getting paid 4 times the amount by other clients, and I'm enjoying the heck out of the work. You know, it's very easy flowing stuff. So that's where, for me, I'm just going, I know, do I want to continue this saga, you know? Now, how I'm going to end up doing it, if I end up doing it, is I'm going to just basically start having a very open conversation after I process fully the charges. And the open conversation is, hey, buddy, we seem to be bumping heads all the time. So if we're bumping heads all the time, are you sure do you feel in alignment with us working together? So I actually bring it together as a friendship. I'll bring it together as an open conversation, because he might actually say, I've been seeing the same thing. What's the solution? How do we not do this? And that suddenly gives you leverage to define new boundaries and say, let's try it this way, because this other way is not working for me, and I'm really losing energy here. So that's what I realized, is that's my outcome to the whole thing, is that, wait a second, this isn't about going in there and saying I am hurt and I'm out of here. It's more of saying, are you feeling this? Because I'm seeing this, and I so don't want to waste your time and money. And, you know, I don't want us to be at odds. You're a nice person. What's a solution? Or is the solution for us to head in different directions? So I think only that kind of conversation, a conversation to bring about clarity and redefining boundaries, can only really take place when you truly process the heck out of what's eating you alive to make you run from the situation. I have the same issue you do, in the sense that I see everything as a layer of growth. So for me, it's kind of like, yeah, but this is a lot of good growth that's happening. I'm getting triggered like so hard, and like I'm processing so much. It's unbelievable. So there's always that as well. But I think what's really important is to bring up a conversation about what's going on and how you're feeling, and what's a solution, finding solutions and things. And that's what I actually plan to bring up, and to see if it's best actually to go different ways, or what is a solution so we don't keep hitting like these notes. etc. So that's what I'm doing. I'm going to experience with that and see what happens, you know.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense to me. You're bringing in a mutual respect, and it doesn't sound at all like you're looking for a solution, not severing something out of ego, mind, fear, right?
Yeah. And
Okay.
that's not where I was at 4 days ago. Where I was at 4 days ago, it was an awesome idea to dig a hole in my backyard, you know, and like I was thinking of all sorts of ways to go about this. You know what I mean? Like that's when you get hurt, you become a monster when you're hurt. If everyone can just know there's a little monster in me when I get hurt, then they know, okay, let's heal that fellow, and then wisdom sets in, a kind of clarity sets in. And so that's what I've learned enough to just say, wait for that moment, and then speak what needs to be spoken, you know.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Yeah, good luck.
Thanks.
Hi, Charlotte. Good to see you. You have to hit unmute. I'm sorry, you're still muted.
Okay. I'm not sure if this is going along with your theme, but yesterday, yesterday I happened to catch on Netflix the creative process of a group, Pink Floyd. You've heard of them?
Yeah, I love them.
The Dark Side of the Moon, the most successful album ever in history.
Wow, didn't know that.
And they have a film of their creative process. And it is so enlightening to watch the divine come into their process. And they have no idea what they're doing. And they keep evolving into this incredible sound. And they're pushing a button here and a button there, and they're bringing in some female singers. And, you know, it was just so encouraging to watch the divine working in people to create such a marvelous thing. And it might inspire someone.
That's beautiful. I'll watch that for sure. You said it was on Netflix, right?
Yeah.
Oh, it's done deal. I'll watch it. Thank you for telling me. I love Pink Floyd. Hey, John, how you doing?
Hey, hi, Doug. Thank you for that. You know, I wanted to ask you, where does anger fit in this? I mean, you always talk about fear, and you know, we have all these levels of emotions, and being, you know, there's depression in there too. So, what about anger? I mean, I think that's probably what I've been dealing with more so, and maybe it's just because I'm not getting what I want, and you know, and surrendering. Yeah. But where does anger fit into all this?
Yeah. Well, first of all, one thing I can tell you that our society has done to us, which is understandable. Like, you're not going to blame society, but like one aspect of it is we have learned to completely and fundamentally suppress anger and rage. And so when it does bottle up, we explode. Like, we do not know how to deal with it. And it's very, very natural on a journey of just self-healing or inner awareness to finally get in touch with layer after layer, decade after decade of compacted hurt, pain, rage, anger, frustration, fear, the whole thing. It's like this, it's just sheer muck. And a lot of people don't know what to do. Like, they get in touch with it and they're shocked they're going through with it, because anger is primal and it's violent. You know, it shows you how you are all. It shows you that you have the capacity to damage something or damage another. You know, that's what when anger comes up, you realize, oh my God, I didn't realize I kept thinking of myself as some kind of a saint. No. you have the full range of capacity, you know, like you can do whatever, you know. So for me, I've noticed with all of my hurts and pain is I've lived a life of nothing but suppression. I've been always been shut down by how my father was with me, and how life molded after that. So I feel with so many layers of hurt and pain and tremendous fear to express myself. So I feel if I express myself, someone will hurt me back somehow, maybe even physically. That's how I feel. That's how I was raised. If I speak back, I get smacked. And so for me, I realize when there's an inability to share where I'm at or what's going on out of fear for my own survival on any kind of level, just not wanting to, it turns into tremendous anger because I don't have the confidence to speak my truth or whatever. That's one aspect. Another aspect is absolute raw hurt coming out of me, backed by fear. It's all very unconscious. I find anger is like that cocktail of hurt and fear together. So all of a sudden hurt and fear come up and I find myself very, very angry and very things. I have a huge anger actually, I don't express it externally. I try my best not to, but I have a total volcano inside of me. And so I watch it come up, and I'm always kind of, because I've learned this because of my path, you have to honor that rage. Like you have to let yourself be angry. That's the correct way to be angry. Consciously angry is a very correct thing. So this is where another layer comes into it. If you can realize that allowing yourself to be angry, to honor that you're angry, that's where it won't explode. That's where it doesn't become unconscious and you go into a freak out. I don't think you'd go into freak out, but that's how it happens. A person gets so bottled up, they actually become completely unconscious and they start freaking. They start yelling at somebody. They want to tip something over. They punch the wall. It's an unconscious act because we weren't allowing ourselves to be conscious and present and to be angry. So I learned celebrate being angry. Acknowledge, sing a song about it. I'm absolutely angry right now. I'm so angry, and stay with that. Sit on it like an egg. It literally heals. It literally releases through you. So that's what I would highly suggest about the being angry part. Of course, understand when raw emotions come up, it's not the time to make any decisions or try to or talk to somebody about your problems, or be talk to somebody who's triggering you in that way. Work through it a little bit. Then you'll come to a place where you'll say, let me explain that I'm getting so triggered around this person. Let's have an open conversation, etc. That's the right thing. But when that reactive moment, you'll just fuel the other person, and then all hell breaks loose,
So listening to you right now, I think that's probably what I have not done is
all of us
allowed it. So then it just hangs in me, right? And then I attract more, right?
Yeah, eats you alive.
Okay. Well.
So I'll tell you something I did that's really helpful. Because I realized how much I really had an idea of myself as being soft and gentle of a human being. I'm soft and kind and sweet. I have no anger. Like that was literally a concept I held. When I suddenly realized, wait a second, no, dude, I am whatever the moment is. Like, forget boundaries anymore. What I started doing to heal all that anger is I started allowing myself to go into my bedroom and literally punch or hit the bed and pillow and yell it out or scream it out. I did this when I was a monk when I was in India. I had so much anger coming out of me that I thought it was kind of funny that I knew housekeeping had to hear me a couple of times. They're just like, that's an angry monk, but I did that on very consciously, like a therapeutic session. I would scream into the pillow and punch it. And it's like I would do it on purpose. I'd overact the situation to just feel the rage. And then other times I literally would put on heavy music, like Rage Against the Machines or whatever. And I would stomp and dance very, very heavily to get it all out of my body. Because I just experimented, like, how do I deal with this, And I found when you take the ride of embracing consciously the experience and having it one way or another, it's all very beautiful, actually. So that's the invitation,
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, you hit it too. I mean, it's like, oh, what I'm going to do to this person. I mean, you just go into these crazy,
Of course.
like, and that's not me. Right. And so, yeah, it's just nuts. Okay. Thank
Good
you.
luck. Yeah.
All right. Zeroed in on.
Yeah. So blind. What is happening in my eyes? Is it Padiman? ABQ? Padmani. Padmani.
Hi,
Hey, how you doing? Good to see you.
I am in a mystery.
Hmm.
My question is about this practice of breathing consciously in and out of the heart space. My question is, are some of the physical manifestations that I'm experiencing related to that? So I've tremoring in the solar plexus and lower belly, sometimes convulsing. I have screamed underwater in the bathtub a couple times this week, but with not knowing what the hell I'm screaming about.
Totally. Yeah, you get it.
Just on the Zoom meeting that I was on right before I came here today, the last words that I heard from the host hurt.
Hmm.
And I just spent sobbing on my knees at my chair before coming here.
Beautiful,
So
actually.
there's just an intensity happening
Yeah.
in the body. And even I have the last couple days itching at the base of my scalp, right under the occipital bone, and little bumps rising up along my spine on the mid back. And I don't feel like any of these things are a sickness or a problem, but they're happening. And I just wanted your experience around this, Doug. Thanks.
Yeah, sure.
Mute.
So, first of all, I'm not a doctor. You could very well been bitten by some kind of like spider that's been radioactive in some kind of plant. And you're undergoing a genetic mutation to like a superhero. But when a person starts paying attention to their heart and when they start learning to breathe and they stop resisting, they start experiencing what tends to happen is a kind of a sure shot. That's why I always see a spiritual awakenings like hose, and the heart is like your heel stepped on the hose, putting a kink in it. So the resisted heart is stopping these spinal energies from flowing. So since it's all shut down in the heart, you're naturally experiencing being completely separate from creation. As soon as you start feeling in the heart, you stop resisting, start breathing. The slow breath, the slow conscious breath brings up the energies. So now when the energies start coming up, spinal energies, very powerful. We have no idea how powerful the spinal energies are. It's something way beyond what science understands. So spinal energies start flowing. It's like an old computer that hasn't been turned on in a while. So it's been collecting all this dust. You plug it in and electricity goes through the circuit boards, dust everywhere, So you get these little sparks and little bursts and little oversurges and all sorts of things as electricity is finally moving through your system again, because it's been shut off for so long. So this is called the awakening of the Kundalini. And Kundalini awakenings vary so many different ways. And so we've been doing all that breath of fire stuff and conscious breathing. So the whole hope of this course was to at least get the engine kicked up a little bit, but we don't have to worry about so much. It's not about trying to get the Kundalini up on some kind of forceful way. That happens very, very naturally. But it is very, very natural when you stop resisting and you become present, that all of a sudden your whole spiritual energetic system gets lit up like a light bulb. And that's depicted when you see Christ and Mother Mary, like these huge halos, that's actually what it is that when the energies finally go up, they flower up and you go into a state of oneness, and there's a huge energetic people, mystics say you have a lot of white light around you and that kind of thing. So I believe that sounds like all the symptoms, but I'm not saying I absolutely know, but it sounds very common what you're going through, so. All right, 2 more questions. Is it Kat? Hey, how
Yes,
you doing?
hello.
Hey, good to see you.
Good to see you too. Thank you for everything in this course and what you've been telling us. My question is related to creating a family. I've been on a journey, a pregnancy journey for 4 years. We've had a couple of miscarriages, and I just wanted to know if you could share with us how you and Prema, you manifested your family.
Sure. First of all, just prayer is very important. I'll tell you literally without any filter of my process. Prayer is very important. So asking life or asking the divine very, very strongly. Like this would be my suggestion to anybody. It would be something like this. You're just asking me what we did. I first of all got extremely, extremely clear the need of humanity. So I saw humanity needs as many beings who can show them the way into the heart, into the higher states of consciousness. This is my opinion. This is just what happened with us. We have a certain perspective. So I thought, if we're going to have a child, it must be a great being. It has to be a being who has a destiny to serve humanity and uplift humanity's consciousness in this upcoming time period. It has to be a being that's not here to work things out with itself, but a being that's already worked things out and bring it, what they call like a divine descent, an avatar, a great being. So I had a very, very clear vision of that. I had even had a lot of mystical experiences around it. I said, this is exactly the kind of being. So we went, of course, saw our teacher and explained it. And the teacher gave us these huge blessings. And it started with intention. So I started holding these very strong intentions of the kind of being I want to see on the planet and what kind of work they'll do. So I'm giving it a purpose to be here. Now, once we did that, we started praying even stronger, saying, you show us the auspicious timings. You show us the auspicious date. You lead the way to my divine, to life. And there was just this certain moment where we felt this feels right. It wasn't logic. It wasn't like a guardian angel didn't come or something like that. It was just suddenly, it was like, it feels very right to do this, So again, as we did it, there was a lot of intentions, a lot of prayers. There's a lot of things like that. Prema did have a miscarriage. Our first child was a miscarriage, actually, and which was very sad. And I'm sorry you had to go through it as well. Then all of a sudden we had the second child. It suddenly felt right. It was the right timings. We did it, and it happened, and it went through. And that's Gabriel. So our whole stance is, and what we've seen and what we learned from our teacher was that when a person gets extremely clear with a passion that a being should come and be of help and has a vision for it, it somehow anchors consciousness in, and it somehow creates an intentional reality for the child. Because if you have a child and necessarily there wasn't a clear intention, it may not have a kind of a deeper purpose. It may not feel that, or has to struggle to find it in their life. So we felt very, very clear that we didn't just want to have a child. We felt very, very clear there's a need. And this is the need for us. This is what works for us. There's somebody for you. You could say there's a need for a mathematics wizard. There's a need for another Steve Jobs, whatever it could be for you. It's your own thing. But I would say start with tremendous prayer. Visualize the child being on the planet and visualize the service it's giving to humanity. Visualize it being a great, mighty being, a being that truly transforms society. Visualize it, feel it, see it, and hold that and ask inside your heart, I'm asking for this to happen. I'm asking to hold space. I'm asking for this to come through. And I turn it over. And strangely enough, when a person has that kind of strong strength and that kind of clarity, so many factors start taking place to make that happen. So that's what we did. And it was a very extremely miraculous process as it unfolded. So many very strange occurrences all gave symptoms that this was the reality, So maybe that's helpful for you.
Thank you. Love you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, you too. All right, last question. Is it Louise? So sorry.
Yes, it's Louise. Hello.
eye contact. That's what I'm gonna do. Good to see you.
Well, that's why I'm asking this question, actually. It's about eye contact that we had in 2012 when you were in Ottawa giving eye diksha. And my experience at the time was that I got this like almost searing pain in my solar plexus when you gave it to me. It was like a lurch. Like imagine being about to be violently ill. That was how it felt. And then for the next few years, I had struggles in my career like you wouldn't believe. It was god awful. What eventually came out of it was that I let go my ambition to be working at a higher salary, higher status job. And I surrendered to being an analyst, which is essentially, I'm built to be an analyst, and that's what I like to do. And I'm just wondering if you can comment on the process, because I really feel it all stemmed from the eye diksha that I received from you.
Sure, I can definitely talk on that. So in the ancient way, back in the day, right? And it still holds true to some extent on some levels. How it was always done, it was that a being would go into a very high state and feel at one with the divine. So their kundalini would be up very, very powerfully. And they would go into a super state, you know, and that's when monks, we were taught how to do that. So, and then that state would naturally transfer to another. And so that was actually called diksha back in the day. This is the ancient way. That's how we were taught, you know. So when a person receives some kind of energies that bring upon that hit on the kundalini, because the kundalini lays actually very dormant in a person. That's why most mystics and most spiritual people, there was a very defining moment when it's like the knob turned on, light switch turned on, you know. It was like a spontaneous happening, maybe through like a shamanic process, a near-death experience, a crisis in their life. Eckhart Tolle went through some kind of huge depression, and all of a sudden the whole thing opened up. But it's a very specific moment that life lines you up to kind of turn it on. And so that's where, when that energy hits, when that starts turning on, it's a hell of a thing. It's like rotor-rooter. When the kundalini starts waking up, it's got to go up, and any kind of blockages throughout the various energy centers, it's just going to stop there with force, and it's going to be forcefully there until you unlearn it. You heal, and then all of a sudden it goes up higher. Then you have to work out all of that. That's why the heart's the toughest one, because when it gets in the heart, you have to actually heal all the wounds. And then it goes to the other ones, you know. So who knows what happens after a person has an energetic awakening? But the process tends to be pretty automatic, actually, even though it take a couple of years for a person to work through what they have to work through. You know, sometimes it's more intense, sometimes more slow. But it sounds like, see, the hell of our life is all a misperception. That's one thing you have to understand about the mind. We're nothing but confusion and layers of pain backing that confusion. So if all of a sudden the lights are starting to kick on and energy starting to come up, each of those confusions has to be unearthed, seen, and healed and dissolved. That's why no stone goes left unturned in the journey of inner transformation or awakening. Not a single stone goes left unturned, because a single stone is another illusion of being separate. And so each thing has to come up. It happens automatically. So it could be something like that for you, where you had some kind of, it helped push the energies up. It got to a point where now you have to actually confront that reality of seeing your life, seeing what's going on, and coming more into alignment with yourself, etc. Whatever. So the joke of it all is that it's not like the monk or the master or something like that is somehow in control of anything. It's just that they offer a certain kind of resonance, and that resonance seems to kind of help further fuel the fire inside another person. But as the fuel kicks on, as the engine kicks up, the process is completely between that person and their divine, or the intelligence of all of life. It's a completely personal process, you know. So hopefully that's helpful for you.
It's very helpful. And I also want to comment that it was when I surrendered to being my more natural role, which is that of an analyst. That's when I started getting the recognition from others that I was craving.
That's beautiful. I love it. That's good. Good for you. Yeah, that's awesome. Okay. So I'm just going to share a couple of things about, I have to go, John, I won't be able to grab that question if you're raising your hand because of the time, that's all. So this whole upcoming week is a week about revisiting with or connecting with or getting further in touch with or starting the relationship in whatever way you want through your heart to the sacred. And so I'm going to just share a couple of things and we'll go straight into a process, but these are just some fundamental things. One thing is there's no such reality of a judging God. There's no doing something wrong and there's this big God who's angry at you because you did something wrong. That you can see clearly in all of history and all of nature. Nature is an odd thing. You should watch the History Channel or the Nature Channel. You'll see the oddest, strangest things where truly if there's something wrong in reality, you'd think God would appear and yell at the praying mantis, or something like that. So there's with the black widow spider kills her mate the moment they make love. So there's no judging God, but there is something very, very vast. There is something that is enormously benevolent. Its very nature is love itself, actually. To me, God can be understood on some levels, but the real gift of growth, and I think the real gift of what the divine is God is an experience. It's an experience and is experienced when you soften your heart and feel the core of your beingness. When you breathe slowly and the thoughts slow down and you just can see that something silently is seeing out. This is the window. This is the moment a person communes. That's why I love that quote, be with God and everything else falls into place. I'm probably chopping up the quote, but that very concept that when we let go, when our whole focus is in that which sees, when we abide and just experience, we let go. The mind lets go what's going to happen next. Let's go of its grasp. Let's go of its gnawing, and you just be. You're completely in harmony with life. Life knows exactly what you want. Life's not confused at all. Life unfolds it. So we can see the hell of our lives is the unconscious struggle, the clawing onto the moment out of pain and hurt and fear of not wanting to let go or not losing control. So there's no judging God. This divine, this presence, this higher self, this unknowable, this extraordinary thing will relate to you in any way you want to relate to it. So when your heart softens and you say, I want to be your friend, like here's how I want to relate to you. It doesn't matter how. In that moment, whatever's authentic, literally life takes on that game and dance. This was proven so strongly with Indian saints and sages. They would literally have their divines physically manifest to them. This is not a new thing. This didn't just happen to one person. This is what made the path of Hinduism, which I'm not supporting any singular path. It's just what made that path so powerful. Because you would literally see simple farmers, simple people just relating to their divines and booming miracles happen. Like I think I mentioned a couple weeks ago, Prem was in bed 2 weeks ago and she's very sick. I thought I'm gonna have to take her to the emergency room. Really, really sick. And I realized this isn't going to work out. Our daughter is breastfeeding. She doesn't even know how to use a bottle. And this is not like something's not going on right well here. So out of that sense, I knew I can get in touch with my friend. I get in touch with the divine very powerfully. My whole heart really is concerned. From the power of that, I connect. And all of a sudden, a presence comes, an energetic force or presence comes. And immediately within a couple of seconds, Prema calms down and she falls asleep. And she was fine. She was healed when she woke up. And it's not This is not to say, look how much I have grown and what I'm capable of. Nope. This is to say, look what happens when your heart feels a genuine concern and you ask for in a friendship that which is sacred to help out. Every time miracles come from that. So that's why friendship to it, relating to it, forget the principles of manifestation, forget all the concepts of spirituality, bring it down to you being a child. Be a 5-year-old, 6-year-old child with your best friend called the universe, called the supreme, whatever name you want to give it. And as a best friend, chit chat, talk, relate, befriend it. It's not going to judge you whether you do it or not. It's for you. When you relate to it and you ask it to help, you're going to watch within seconds. It starts happening. You'll watch within that day, the very thing you're concerned about worked itself out. The secret is this now. The secret is when you relate to it, being authentic, wherever you're at, you relate to it exactly there. You're angry, relate to it being angry. You're sad, relate to it being sad. Don't sit there and go, oh, Holy One, above all. Forget it. Wherever you're at, meet the divine there. The divine has no problem with it. So when you notice whatever you ask for happens, you must take note of it. When you notice it happens, acknowledge, my goodness, I asked for that earlier and it happened. How cool is that? The more you can acknowledge, the mind can learn when my heart asks, my best friend, it happens. The more you can start seeing that, the mind learns the power of your relationship with the unknowable. It starts literally realizing, oh my goodness. My teacher, Sri Bhagwan, my teacher from India, he had this great teaching. I love it. It's one of my favorite ones. And what it was is said, it's not enough to know that your divine can do something. It's not enough to know that your divine can do something. You must discover that your divine will do it. Not enough to know your divine can do something. You must discover your divine will do it. And this, I feel, is that bridge of crossing the illusion that the intention and manifestation is this rigid boundary. This is what you do. These are the principles. And then, yeah, there's God over there somewhere. No. Throw it all away. Be clear what you want. Line up with intention. Put in the effort and let your whole heart with sacredness ask all of life. This is what I want. Help me. Help me have this. This is what I want. This is where I'm going. I'm running into a roadblock. Please help. I'm asking for help. Be a child. Let go of all that the mind thinks it's learning all these tools to control further. Throw it all away and be a 5-year-old. You'll get away. The things are booming. It'll all start happening so fast. So this week is a week where we're going to be 5-year-olds in our hearts in a very loving way. And we're going to connect with our divines, whatever way you want. And you're going to start learning to ask your divine for anything and everything. Like a child in a toy store at the parent. I want this. I want that. Help me with this. Help me with that. And I want you to just start noticing as you start asking for these things, how they just start happening. There's no mystery to it. And realize, my goodness, why am I not doing this all the time? Why am I not turning things over to something greater, saying, you figure it out. You help me. You show me how to do this. It may just, the insight, it might just be a simple insight that comes to you. All of a sudden, your stomach might go into a deep, slow breath automatically, and you go into a state. Who knows how higher intelligence helps you unlearn the divisiveness of your mind, causing the problems in creation. So this week's focus is you, like a 5-year-old, becoming, reigniting or connecting with whatever it is to you as a friend, and inviting it through all throughout your day and anything you're trying to do, mainly your passions and focuses, whatever you're doing, and learning to talk to it and relate to it and seek help. And every time you notice it does something, acknowledge it, honor it, realize, wow, this is no joke. This effortlessly just happened. I just asked for it. And realize that there's something greater than what your mind can perceive that is flowing through your life. It's grace. It's the divine hand. And then when you discover it, there's no end to the discovery. It's not like, oh, I got that. Oh man, dive into it with all you got. It's really powerful. So that's going to be our focus for this week. And so we're going to do a small prayer right now that we're going to be asking for the divine to really, really come to life inside of us in a much stronger way. So let us just use the restroom for like 2 minutes, and then we'll go through this and then we'll call it our session done. So I'll wait for a couple more people. So let's just close our eyes, move into a deep, slow breath. I'm going to start breath of fire, slow speed. Go faster. Go faster. Go as fast as you can. Just give it all you got. Exhale fully. Focus on the crown of your head. Inhale as deep as you can. Focus on the crown of the head. Hold your breath. Exhale. 2 more times. Inhale as deep as you can. Hold your breath. Crown the head. Exhale. 1 more time. Inhale as deep as you can. Hold your breath. Crown the head. Exhale. Breathe deep and slow directly into your heart. So we're going to be doing an open eye meditation together. We're just allowing for grace to flow through our hearts and through our eyes. You'll just gently open your eyes. In a couple moments, I'll open my eyes and we'll be sharing grace together. Just sharing a space where heart and higher energy is flowing. So just ask for your divine, ask for your heart, for the divine to flow, and keep your eyes open. And I'll just open my eyes and we'll share space together for a moment. Just close your eyes. Go into your heart. Feel tremendous gratitude and sacredness. Breathe deep and slow. I want you to feel like a child in your heart. Just connect, soak in, relate to your most sacred best friend. Feel love and gratitude. Breathe deep and slow. I want you to stay here as long as you can and just relate with, talk to, connect with, play with the Supreme Friend. All throughout today, make it a special day for you to walk and talk with the divine in your heart and watch how life responds. So namaste to you. See you tomorrow.